A huge component to healing is our spiritual well-being. This is an area that is so often overlooked, and when we experience trauma, it is equally important that we heal our spirit along with our physical bodies. I am just now going through the repercussions of this, of not healing my soul after fighting for my son's health. That was over 7 years ago, and it is just now surfacing. I think this happens so often where we heal our loved ones, we heal our children, our spouse, our parents, and we forget about all the heartache we experience along the journey. It's time to heal mind, body, and spirit. Today is a really special episode. You get to sit in on a very vulnerable healing session with one of the most intuitive healers I have ever met. I cannot wait for you to meet Karina. Let's get right into it. Welcome to the podcast, Karina. We are so honored to have you here. I would love to begin the episode by learning who you are and hearing how you got here and what we're going to be doing today.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate all the things that you are educating us on your podcast and on Instagram. So thank you so much for all you're doing too.
Well, right back at you.
Thank you. Yes. So my name's Karina B. Singer. My Instagram handle is Tapping with Karina, and that's pretty much across the board. All my social media, my Gmail is Tapping with Karina Gmail, and YouTube is Tapping with Karina. So basically, I'm an EFT practitioner for the last about 13 years. I do other types of modalities, visualization and generational release and intuitive healing work. But ultimately, I'm not in a space where I really think I am healing the people I'm working on. It's really that I'm holding a loving healing space. I'm teaching or sharing very powerful, effective tools. But ultimately, I feel like the answers and the wisdom are within you. And I'm really here to facilitate and hold space as we unpack together, as we synergistically co-create and kind of heal together. So I really love this opportunity. I love helping people. And my why is kind of just reminding people that they are really magnificent and amazing and powerful and divine. And sometimes we just get in our human minds, our human brains, and get distracted and forget. And I love to help people remember who they really are.
Amazing. So I mentioned this in the introduction, but you reached out to me on Instagram, gifting me a session with you after I shared that I've recently self-diagnosed myself with PMDD. Yes. And I said, so I am in complete awe with how many women said they too are struggling with this. And I thought how beautiful if we could have a session together, but we could share on the podcast so that other people can benefit and heal. And what we're going to uncover in me today is different than anybody else, but this is a tool that's available to everybody. And you have so much that you offer on your Instagram and your YouTube. And also if any listener wants to do a session with you and unpack the root, what's really deep inside of them with you, I'll have all of your information in the show notes so that anybody can pause at any time or listen to the whole thing and reach out to you.
Thank you so much. Yes. And I do want to offer your listeners also a free session. So anyone that wants to do that first session so that they can experience it for themselves, I would love to offer that.
You are so generous and so kind. Can we cap it at like 10?
Sure.
I don't want you to be bombarded and like the life be sucked out of you, because I'm not kidding you, thousands of women messaged saying, I also have PMDD. Wait, what is PMDD? What is going on? And not only PMDD, but what, like, you're not just focused on PMDD. This is like root, what is spiritually inside of our bodies that need released so that it's not manifesting in symptoms. Do I have that right?
Yes, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
And so it's not just PMDD. It can be anxiety, depression, eczema. It can be any of the symptoms that I speak on all the time. It can be any symptom. And so, all that to say, I want to really share my gratitude and honor you. And so I would love to like put a cap. So like the first 10 people to contact you can have a free session.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yes. And I do want to follow up on what you said. These tools, I have not actually come across in 13 years something that these tools could not address and help. So it has been a very large gamut of things physically, emotionally, spiritually. It really does cover it all. And so
Wow.
anything that your listeners are dealing with, can be addressed using these tools. That's not to say that like it will fix everything in one session. Obviously, I can't guarantee that, but definitely I do feel strongly that it will help in some way, that it will shift something in some way or give you some type of realization, connection, and help you get to the root. I do believe that we learn in layers, that we heal in layers, and that we even get traumatized in layers a lot of times. So
Absolutely.
it will be going through the layers, and it will take at least some time, but some things can be moved through much faster than you would think. And other things sometimes take a little longer than we think. And it's all okay because it's all part of the journey and the experience.
Amazing. Well, I think we should move into it. And for everybody listening, you are in for a real treat. Whether this is the first time you're listening to the Follow Your Gut podcast or you've listened to every single episode, something you should know about me is I, for most of the time for better, but sometimes not in my favor, I don't have this shield. Like I don't have a block. I am naturally a very transparent person. And so I'm not holding anything back today, and I'm okay to be vulnerable. And I really want to like speak on this to you, Karina, because I am okay to like unpack publicly.
Amazing. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I love authenticity, and that's where we can connect is when we're really vulnerable and open. It takes a lot of strength. So whether you sometimes look at that as a positive or not, I think that that's a very positive thing and ultimately serves you as well as everyone that's following you. So
I
that's
believe
beautiful.
that too. I believe that transparency is how we learn about ourselves, even, like me going on Instagram and saying I've self-diagnosed myself with PMDD. Hundreds of women said, wait, what is PMDD? I experience all of these same symptoms. I never knew it was a thing. I thought I was just crazy. And so me being transparent in that moment of my life helped other women connect dots for themselves. And so that's exactly why I wanted to do this session openly with you.
I love it. Thank you so much. I would love to start with some body connecting and intention setting. And I'll just say that for those that are listening or watching, I always invite people. I actually have a podcast as well, Free to Be You. And I always invite people to take what resonates with them and let go of what doesn't. So anything that we say in this session, it will either resonate or not, and that's okay. And just you're free to choose what feels right to you. So we will be probably talking about some spiritual aspects. And so I just kind of wanted to give that thought. But I invite you to just place your hand over your heart and your other hand over your gut and just take some deep breaths. And Juniper, just get connected with your body for a moment here, with your eyes closed and breathing nice and deep. Dropping from your busy brain and your thoughts down into your body and down into your heart and your gut if you can. And I'd like to invite that this session will be filled with love, with safety, knowing that you are safe and you are loved, that you are supported, and inviting any angels, guides, ancestors that have your highest good at heart to join us, to help us see more, to help us channel more messages, and to also do any healing that they might want to do for your ancestors. Healing moves backwards and forwards to ancestors and to posterity. And that is why this is important work. You are doing a brave work showing up here today. And I hope that you can feel that love, support, and bravery filling your body and also helping you tune into your body as we move through this session, that you will become more and more aware of what is happening in your body, what's happening in your subconscious, and finding the things that will support you even further from this point on. And so it is. As you are in this space, Juniper, I invite you to pay close attention to your womb. Go down to your womb and just tuning into what might be going on in there. If there are memories stored in there or things stored in there that maybe aren't serving you right now. Noticing if there's any roots there. And even thinking back to your first period, your first menstrual cycle. Noticing if there's anything that we might want to talk about there. And I'm just going to be quiet for a moment while you tune in and listen. Trusting whatever's coming to you. Whenever you feel ready, take your time. Whenever you feel ready, come back and open your eyes when you feel ready. And feel free to share anything that's coming up for you right now.
Okay, so what's interesting is what I know in my head. I think are messages that, I mean, clearly they're deep in my self, like in me. So I was trying to really quiet my mind and like listen to beyond my mind, and the messages are the same. So what comes to me is like when I first started my period, I didn't have any education on the female body or what was happening, and it was just this like inconvenient, gross thing.
Mm-hmm.
And over particularly the last few years, I have really come to adore my period. I love my period. And but it probably took me until I was 33 years old to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's a lot of, it's so sad to say it, but like so much negativity that it received for, so gosh, what is that? Over 20 years.
Yes.
And So that is one part. Can I tell you all the things that came up?
Absolutely.
Okay. Another part is I might cry here. I loved being pregnant so much. I loved giving birth. I loved having babies, and I would have 100 more babies. And it's not like, so I have 4 amazing children. I had 4 pregnancies, all like way beyond term. 4 beautiful water birds. All of my babies were over 10 pounds, and like absolutely remarkable experiences that I am so grateful for. And I want to experience that more. The part that's so hard to explain though is it's not actually that I want more children though. It's that I want to relive those moments again and again. And there is like great sadness in my womb that I am not.
Yeah. And feel free to cry. Cry all you want. Just let it
letting
flow.
that go is really hard for me. And my daughter, she's 13, and it's so fast.
Yeah.
And so I think what it is that my womb craves so much is not like more children, but more of the ones that I have, if that even makes sense.
Almost like you want to put them back in there and keep them safe or something.
Oh my gosh. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. And I love the age and stage that they're all in right now too. It's, but I definitely hold tight to that in my womb. And I'm thinking of my friend and old coach, Kate Saffel, right now, because I know she'll listen to this, and she knows me so well. Like, this was a topic of conversation in every single call we had for years, is how much like grief I hold in like these seasons of my motherhood passing so quickly.
That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. I would love to just take a moment to like bask in the beauty of that you've had those amazing experiences and that you love it so much that you're sad that it's going so fast. That's a really beautiful thing. And I also love learning that grief is founded in love. And it is really important that we make friends with grief and that we allow grief to sit at the table with us, because it is a part of this life and it's a part of love. And the resistance of it is what makes it more painful. And the making friends with it allows it to flow a little more easily. And so even just the realization that that's there is important, and honoring that, like, wow, how beautiful that you've had these amazing experiences. And also the other thought that came to me was that our minds are so powerful and our imaginations are so powerful that you can actually relive those anytime you want. You can actually go back in your mind and just rewatch it like a movie, and actually experience it all over again.
You are like opening my mind up already so much, because I've never viewed grief in that way before, of like inviting it to come and sit at the table with me. I have always viewed grief as like, how do I either fix this or close that door? I've never considered like, okay, let's be together.
Yeah, I think it's collectively coming up right now. And people are realizing that this is a part of our experience and it's an important part of our experience. And that when we resist emotions that we deem as negative, we actually miss the information that they're trying to give us. So all emotions are important and all emotions are welcome because it is part of this human experience and it's part of what we're here for, I believe. It's this journey and experience is what shapes us. And anytime you love, there is a chance for grief. You know, if you have a child that grows up and goes on their own, it's like there's grief. If you have something happen to a child, and there's probably listeners now that have lost children, or whether it's a stillborn or a miscarriage or just passing away, there is grief is a part of motherhood, I think, actually. Our children are kind of like our hearts walking around outside of our bodies with arms and legs, right? And anytime they're hurt or sad, we hurt for them and we're sad for them. So I do think that embracing that part and knowing that that's a part of motherhood and that it's a beautiful part because it comes from love is a way to surrender and accept, and also to learn what we're meant to learn from it.
Have you read the book The Power?
I don't think I have.
It's a really good audiobook. I like to listen to that over and over when I'm in a negative headspace because it brings you back to love. And because love is the power. And and so when you are connecting grief with love, that completely recategorizes where grief sits in my mind. Because I've never defined this outside of my mind, but there's different categories of feelings, right? And I think a lot of this is cultural, but there's positive feelings and emotions and experiences that we categorize in our mind. And I've never paired love and grief together.
That's really beautiful.
So thank you.
You're so welcome. So now that you love your period, it's such a great thing and it's such a lovely thing, right? And it's important. And I think this is also a collective shift for a lot of people. And I think your story of how you initially saw your period or your menstrual cycle is really normal. I've heard that a lot of times. And I actually did a womb healing group session one time that was really powerful and beautiful. It is surprising what we store in our wombs. Our wombs, I think, are a creative center for us women. And so, and maybe even a portal, right? And so there is a lot going on in there for us. And even though you have shifted your mind, your body may still be holding on to some of that old stuff. And so I'd love to explore that a little bit and just see if that kind of loosens things up for maybe the stress and the pressure that is happening with PMDD and whatever it's communicating to you. I feel like there might be a connection there, and it would be good to just do a little exploring on that. So do you mind if we do some tapping on that first experience you had with your cycle?
Let's do it. So Karina and I talked about this right before we started recording. She's going to really describe what we're doing. But if you want to watch and do this with us, I will embed this episode there'll be a link in the show notes that you can come and watch it, or it's on YouTube. So you can join us for these tapping parts.
Yes. Wonderful. So with tapping, we want ultimately, there's a few things we want, but what I really want you and everyone else to remember is that EFT is not perfectionistic at all. It's very flexible. So even if you do this quote wrong, it will probably still help you, but I will be sharing some things that will make it more effective. So finding
Perfect.
a specific memory and the emotion attached to it is a very helpful part. And then rating your emotion 0 to 10, 10 being the highest. So when you think back to when you first started your cycle, is there a kind of a specific memory that comes to your mind and an emotion?
I'm going to have to sit on this one for a minute. I have tried so hard to reflect back, and I have this total block in my memory of
Interesting.
like even having a period. Like it is a
Wow.
total block in my mind.
Okay.
So another part of me is I grew up in Utah,
Mhm.
and so I think culturally, even like more there than maybe some other places, anything to do with the vagina is like taboo and
Taboo.
not
Yeah.
talked about. And so I'm going to sit with this for a second and try to dig up a memory.
Okay.
But I think that that really just kind of speaks to what we're doing here is
Yes.
that, yeah.
Yeah. The fact that there's a block there tells me a lot. And actually, what's really cool about tapping is you're tapping on the endpoint of energy meridians or acupuncture, acupressure points. So it actually pulls from your body and your subconscious as we're tapping. So even if you have a block initially, as we're tapping, more will come out as as we go through these
Okay.
points. So we
Okay.
can
So
even
right
just
now,
start.
I'm just going to hold on to that my period was bad and gross and
Okay.
inconvenient. And like
Yes.
that is my definition of a period up until the last 3 years.
Okay. Perfect. So, well, one of the emotions I kind of picked up on was disgust. Does that resonate?
Yeah, it was disgusting.
Okay. And so
Uh huh.
what number would you rate disgust with connected to initially getting your period 0 to 10, 10 being the highest?
Like 10.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to start at the karate chop point, which is the side of the hand where you would karate chop something. And we use 4 fingers typically. Again, it's not exact, but if you want to use 4 fingers, that's what I like to do. And then we use a setup statement, which is even though I feel disgust, and you're going to go
Even
ahead and,
though I
yeah,
feel disgust.
perfect. Yes. Just say it out loud with me. And if there's anything I say that doesn't resonate, just let me know. I
Okay.
try to work kind of intuitively. And so I'll say things just to test and see what's coming up for you. And then if you're like, no, that's not right, just let me know. Or even if something else is coming up for you that I'm not mentioning, feel free to say that as well.
Okay.
So, even though I feel this disgust,
Even though I feel this disgust,
when I think about my first period,
when I think about my first period,
or when I first got my period,
or when I first got my period,
and we're tapping on the karate chop point as we're saying this, I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
love myself,
love myself,
accept myself,
accept myself,
and forgive myself.
and forgive myself.
And I just realized you have a hat on. So we do have a point up here in the
Oh, yeah.
center, top of the head. And so that's the next point. This disgust.
This disgust.
And then we're going to go the beginning point of the eyebrows. And I like to just use 2 or 3 fingers there. This disgust.
This disgust.
And the end point of the eyebrows. Think about your period. Think about the fact that you didn't really know what was going on, I believe you said, and you're just kind of grossed out and it's disgusting and it's an inconvenience, right?
Uh huh.
Okay. And then we're going to go under your eyes and just remember how you felt. Maybe you even felt kind of ashamed or alone. Does that resonate at all?
Yes, and a memory just came up too.
Okay, good. Go ahead and tap under the nose. Do you want to share the memory, or would you rather not?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. So my dad, my parents divorced when I was 8 months old. So I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah with my mom, and I would come visit my dad. And I remember I was probably 5. And this was the first time that I
We're going to move to the chin as you're talking.
saw. So my dad, he had a girlfriend that was living with him, and she forgot to flush the potty, and there was like a tampon and so much blood in the toilet. And this is the first time I had ever heard, I didn't know what it was. And I remember that was like so scary to me. And we didn't talk about it, but that was like my first exposure is, whoa, this is something really scary that happened in here.
Oh, yeah. On your chest, just below your clavicle bone, both sides.
Because I guess as we're kind of going through this too, maybe blood to me is categorized without me meaning to, it's categorized as bad and scary and gross.
Yeah. And that sounds totally understandable why you would feel that way. We're going to go under the armpit, about where the bra strap is, or a few inches below your armpit. Okay. So we're going to shift to this new memory that's coming up. Whoa, there's a tampon and there's blood, and I'm 5 and I don't understand. And that's scary. And blood usually means someone's hurt, right? When you're 5. Karate chop point. So blood is scary, right?
Blood is scary.
And I deeply and completely love myself.
And I deeply and completely love myself.
And accept myself.
And accept myself.
And forgive myself.
And forgive myself.
In the top center of the head, deep breath. This blood that's scary.
This blood that's scary.
That is an interesting thing to think about, isn't it? Beginning point of eyebrows, because there aren't very many times, in fact, I can't really think of too many times in life where blood isn't scary, right?
Totally.
And where it's not because someone's hurt.
Totally.
Yeah. End point of eyebrows. So it's a lot for us to connect when we're young and we're starting our cycle. It's like, what other example can we even think of that where blood is like good? Yeah. Under your eyes. And of course it takes us a long time, or someone else educating us, to learn that it's cleansing, that it is part of a powerful, miraculous cycle, and it's part of creation. Wow. Under your nose. What's coming up for you?
Well, it seems like every time we cycle around to right here, I have like new thoughts. So,
oh, good.
This is that, I honestly think that any conversation about periods, it's so painful. There's cramps. It's so uncomfortable. I don't have a memory, honestly, until I made massive shift in my life 3 years ago for my own well-being, that I've never had cramps with my, so just for everybody, we're still tapping. We've moved to our chin, or below our lip, but, I I've never had cramps. I've never had uncomfortable cycles. I've always been like, I'm not a heavy bleeder. I've never had a bad period. But culturally, that story was so loud that was also my story.
Wow. So we've moved to the chest. We're still tapping. Wow. So it's so interesting because it's almost like what other people are saying and feeling was overriding your actual experience.
Absolutely. Something else you should know about me is I am a highly sensitive person. So I mean, as I step more and more into myself, and I would say this has been a progression probably over the last 8 years, I have really like removed myself from a lot. I don't live in a neighborhood anymore. I don't read the news. I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the news. I have had to like, in order to get comfortable and in tune with myself, I've had to remove myself from that outside influence. And so I guess that's probably been a huge part of my progression in like getting to this point 3 years ago of like, actually, I freaking love my cycle. I've learned that there's actually 4 phases of my cycle. I only thought it was either you're on or off, you're bleeding or you're not.
Right.
And like, and then I started like connecting these pieces of like, okay, in this phase, holy cow, I'm like so task oriented. I love checking off check marks and like, I will like deep clean every drawer in my kitchen. During one phase, and then another phase, like I don't have the, okay, so I also have ADHD. And so like sitting still to watch a movie is like not my definition of a good time. But my family sometimes wants to watch a movie together. And so like, I'll have to plan that during my menstruation phase and so anyways, it's within the last 3 years that I have like learned the whole cycle of my body and to use it. And the longer this journey goes, the more in love I am with my body and my cycle. But it has really been this process of removing myself from outside noises.
It's like getting back to yourself. You're getting back to who you really are, which I think is so many of us. I think we're shaped, we're influenced, we're told belief systems, we're told things, and then we kind of have to get back to what is the wisdom inside us. And I feel like you in particular, though, I sense so much sovereignty inside you naturally, and so much of it feels like a gift of really knowing who you are and what you believe and what you know, like there's a knowing. It's really interesting. It's kind of a rare, I've not come across this type of energy like this. Very cool.
Oh, that's neat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a friend that lives not too far from me that I would love for you guys to do a session, because you would say the same exact thing about her. And like, we've never like met anybody like we connect, because it's just like, there are just so many, like, it's either an intuitive hell yes or nope. Like that doesn't make sense at all. And I'm never going to go on that path. Like, it's like this. And so it's really hard to be in a partnership with me, like, bless my sweet husband, because like my intuition is either like hell yes or no.
Right. Yes. Oh yeah.
We even had to have conversations, because he's like, it is not fair for you to pull that intuition on me. It doesn't give, there's no word. I don't have,
there's no
like,
wiggle
chance.
room. I love it. I'm sure he's magnificent man. He sounds great.
He is.
This is good. I'm almost even getting the sense that it's very interesting and some kind of hard for me to put into words, but I'm just seeing your spirit, who Juniper is, who you are, very solid. And it's almost like you've given permission for your body to go through some of this stuff to help others. That's really what it feels like. Like you're not very confused or struggling. You're in a human body and you're kind of playing the game, but like it feels very solid within you. Your spirit is very solid. It's almost like it feels more solid than most people do. It's very interesting and very
maybe
cool.
that is my gift in transparency, is that I have no, like, there's nothing embarrassing. There's like no shame.
Right.
Like me experiencing PMDD, like, you know, I have no, like, there's nothing holding me back to be like, gosh, I am really in a terrible mood during this phase of my cycle, and I feel pretty out of control of my body. I'm so sorry, watching out the window, there's these bunnies doing flips and leaps over each other.
Oh my gosh, that would be hard to not be distracted by that. That sounds amazing.
That was so
magical.
Cute. So I think, and this actually kind of speaks to how I even started Only Organics. And, my son went through an experience, and for 2.5 years, he was plagued with so many symptoms, a long list of food allergies and eczema and speech delays and so many symptoms. And we just kept getting brushed under the rug. And once we finally healed his body, I knew that I needed to share it. But I still had so much pressure from outside influence on me. And so I really actually just kind of closed the door at that point. And it wasn't until we had our 4th son and he turned 4 months and he suddenly had eczema and like colicky symptoms kind of came up. And I was just like, okay, we're going to try the same healing protocol that we finally came to when our second child was 2.5. And sure enough, he healed. And that was when I was like, okay, it is so clear. Like, we have been gifted this experience to help other families heal. And at that time, I had no clue how many children and even women and men live with these symptoms, and how many that, just 3 years into my business, I literally get hundreds of messages every single week of women saying, my baby is covered in this eczema, and there are these like oozing, weeping photos that they send me.
Yes.
And doctors just want to give them steroids. And, these women, we've tried everything. What do we do? And every single time I connect with these women, it like that message is so strong that my family went through this experience for us to share like a real foundational healing that heals the body from the root instead of treat these symptoms. And
yes.
And so it's really interesting that you said this, because I don't feel a lot of times, whether we self-diagnose or we are professionally diagnosed with something, we identify with that diagnosis. And I don't feel that. And I think that this is my, like, with PMDD, even with ADHD, I was professionally diagnosed with ADHD as a teenager. Those are like not part of my identity. And those are both gifts to help me get more in tune with my body. And so a lot of times when we are diagnosed with something, it's almost like, well, shoot, because Western medicine is like, you've got to take birth control.
Mm-hmm.
If you have these symptoms of PMDD, here you go. And
Right.
we're never invited to even learn how to heal our bodies. That's
Right.
never even a topic of conversation. And through my son's experience, I learned that actually I have the ability to heal anything. and
Mm-hmm.
and I will. And so I have like a dead set determination. And so when I am like able to associate with something and say, "Oh my gosh, this defines why I'm feeling so funky."
Yeah.
But instead of stopping there, it's okay, this is a whole new table that
Mm-hmm.
I get to figure out how to make beautiful and right, like,
Yeah.
and so that's where I feel that I am with this PMDD is I feel so much release of, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is PMDD is kind of a definition of what is going on in my body right now. What am I going to do? How am I going to heal this? And so I'm going to take every single approach, spiritual, physical, um, emotional. I'm going to go after it all. And
Mm-hmm.
how freaking awesome that I've been invited on this journey and I get to make it to the other side as a whole different version of me.
Yes, exactly. I love that. I do think that that is so much of what happens is we are truly meant to go on these journeys, and it is really important that we don't identify as our diagnoses, because that is where we get stuck. That's where we limit ourselves, right? And when we just say that we experience the symptoms of something, a diagnosis, it's it's that's the truth, because our who we really are is not those diagnoses.
No,
It's we're this divine spirit and this magnificent being, and we're here experiencing everything, you know. And so that's exactly, I think, what we're meant to do is go on the journey and learn the things and then help others, right?
absolutely. I think that that is like all of our purpose here on earth right
Mm-hmm.
now is to go through our different experiences and then share our journeys with others. And I was actually going to record a whole episode on this. And so this is amazing that we're talking about it right now is that, so many women come into my world when they are in a really hard place. I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
is like nothing really harder than your child being really unwell.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard when you're in that moment to not be consumed with fear and
Mm.
with managing the symptoms. It
Yes.
really consumes you. It consumed me for 2.5 really long years.
Mm.
And during those 2.5 years, I really lost a lot of myself. I was so consumed in it. And reflecting back now, I think that this is a lot of sadness that I hold in my womb is I really missed those 2.5 years of my daughter, who's,
Mm.
she's 3 years older than my son. And I missed the first 2.5 years of my son's life because I couldn't see past his symptoms. I was so scared for his life.
Mm.
And I'm going to cry again because I really don't have many positive memories to hold on to from that time because I wasn't in the frequency to see them. I
Mm-hmm.
was living in fear.
Yeah.
And um And so now that we have made it to the other side, I feel that part of what I am supposed to share is that even though when we are struggling with symptoms ourselves, when our children are unwell, we have to focus on the good moments and
Yes.
let the light shine on the parts that are good.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so true for our healing process, especially, I'll get messages saying, okay, my child who has been constipated for 3 years, they would go 3 weeks without having a bowel movement. They're now pooping every day. But I don't think the rebalance is working because they still have eczema. And my response is, you really that's incredible improvement. That's worth massive celebration. And healing is such a long process that you have to slow down and see the progress that you're making. And everyone's timeline of healing is different. And even though the skin isn't healing as quickly as the bowels, focus on the win. And so I feel like that's a really big, beautiful part of tapping is acknowledging the hard, but then shining so much light on right now, the good right now, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that that's something huge to apply to everything, our businesses, motherhood, our marriages, our friendships, our accomplishments, everything, because the brain kind of just goes on to the next problem. It's like, okay, there's this part that's good. Yeah. But now there's this. And so then we get to put our spirits in charge and say, actually, I'm going to be present with this win and this celebration. And I'm just going to really enjoy it. And it really is just about being present, right? And bringing ourselves, because I've noticed life is full of bittersweet moments. You go to a wedding, there is bittersweet. You go to a funeral, it's bittersweet, right? Everything, having a baby, giving birth, it's bittersweet. Almost everything is bittersweet. And so if we get consumed in the bitter and we forget to celebrate the sweet in the moment, that's when we are fear-based, right? That's when we're missing out. And the beautiful thing is, I really do feel like it'd be good for us to do a visualization with your womb. Okay. Because as we play and experiment with visualizations, we actually get to create more of what we want to experience. And it is never too late. I've talked to people who, had an abortion, and we connected to the spirit of the child. And you can actually visualize having memories and experiences with that child here, just as if you actually had those experiences. That's how powerful this muscle is that we have access to. I remember taking a class about fear, actually, and she was saying when we fear and we kind of picture, is good that you're yawning because that's a good release.
I was just before we started recording, I was watching out the window, my daughter out there with her horse, and she's rubbing him and he just keeps yawning.
Oh,
and I actually had this question in my mind. I was like, I wonder if humans release the same way that horses do.
Yes, we do. When I first started doing sessions, no one told me this, and I was yawning constantly as I'm facilitating. And then finally I worked with another practitioner, and she's like, oh yeah, that's an energy release. I was like, oh, you're shifting things in your body.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've been teaching people that for years because, even when I would teach classes and different things outside of my business, I would see people yawning. It's also when you resonate with truth, you'll yawn sometimes too.
Oh
So
my gosh, I cannot
yeah.
wait to go tell my daughter this. She's going to be so excited to hear this. It's like starting to get dark here, so I'm getting a little fuzzy in the screen, but
Yes.
we're good.
Oh, I love it. So this fear class, she was saying that we actually experience as if we have lived through that thing that we're fearing because we're visualizing it,
Oh
we're
my gosh.
picturing it, and it's as if we actually lived through that. So that can also apply on the positive, where if we feel regret or we feel like we missed out. So for example, these years that you're talking about, you can actually, moving forward past this session, when you're trying to fall asleep or when you're just relaxing or whenever, you can actually go back to that time, visualize doing something fun with your child at that age, and just experience it.
Wow. That is so true, because it is so easy for our minds to write fear-based stories.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's so easy to like think back and have such a clear visual of, wow, that could have gone differently negative in this way so easily.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it just crazy that like that's not a natural thing to do in a positive way?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, because we've got these parts of our brain that are protecting us and trying to keep us from jumping off cliffs and things like that, right? Like the amygdala, and we have these parts that, and the ego, and so it's the way to override those things is
I can't
using
stop yawning.
It's good. It's good.
I'm really not, you're not tiring me at all. So I'm just so glad that like you explained this, because I was sitting here like trying to hold it in for a minute because I was like, I don't want her to think she's like making me tired.
I always try to address it right away so people don't worry. They can just yawn all they want. They can cry all they want. It's all release. It's all the same thing. Crying, yawning, sometimes burping. I mean, people have all sorts of different ways of releasing, and it's just shifting, resonating. It's all good. So
this is so funny because I am like not a burper, but I totally like have these bubbles in here, and I'm sitting over here like, what is going on with me?
you've got all the things shifting and resonating.
Well, this is great.
I love it. I love it. So yes, when we put our spirits in charge and we say, okay, ego, I see you. Thank you. I appreciate you. But I heard this once. It was like, your spirit's in the driver's seat. You put the ego in the back seat like a toddler, and you just feed it snacks. Like, you're good, ego. Here's a snack.
That's so perfect.
But I'm in charge, and then when the spirit's in charge, then you can use the visualization for forgiving. This is something I do in sessions. I incorporate Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian practice to make things right, mixed with tapping, mixed with visualization. And it's a very powerful forgiveness visualization. And we do a lot. I mean, it's intuitive, so there's lots of different things we do. But we can usually use this imagination, this visualization, when our spirit's in charge, for reframing memories, reframing situations, forgiving, creating, right? So much good.
Wow. Well, this is amazing. I'm going to have to because when I was working with my coach, Kate, a couple years ago, she would ask me to go back and revisit those times.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get myself to go there because it was so painful and so scary.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe she put it in these words, even to go back and rewrite that story, but I wasn't ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
But that feels really powerful to me now.
Good. Yes. And tapping can help you get more ready too. Sometimes we want to skip the work and just go to the results, right? We want to just experience the good or the healing or the forgiveness. But that is the beautiful thing about tapping, is that it honors what your experience actually was first. And
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
honors any of the kind of what we deem as negative experiences, traumas, negative emotions. And then you can shift, right? Once you honor that first.
Which I really, really love that about tapping, because a lot of times, like, okay, we'll just think positively. I feel like in the mindset culture that I
Mm-hmm.
think we are all living in right now. So, for example, with PMDD, like, and I'm not an expert in PMDD. I did like a few hours of research for myself and was like, I can say I'm experiencing all of these. And
Yeah.
um where was it? Oh, I don't experience the symptoms all month long. I experience them like the 7 to 10 days leading up to my menstruation phase. And during that phase, it I can't choose my mindset. Like,
Mm.
during other phases of my cycle, it's easier for me to say, like, look at something from this perspective and like take charge of my mind. But when my hormones are managing my mind
Mm-hmm.
more,
Yeah.
it's harder to say, like I don't have that. And in fact, like there are times where I'm just really freaking mad and I just want to be
Yeah.
really freaking mad, and
Yeah.
I don't want to like go listen to a mindset podcast. I don't want something to lift me up right
Right.
now. And
Right.
so tapping, I feel like whether you are in that phase, it first validates exactly where you are, and
Mm-hmm.
then you work through it. And then there's also like this whole mindset culture, which I think is so beautiful, and it like really woke me up probably about 3 years ago too. um the power of our mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
manifesting. And I feel that there are different modalities that I don't resonate with as much, because I feel like I'm lying to myself. I'm lying to my brain. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just making shit up. And
Mm-hmm.
with tapping,
Yeah.
it's like I'm meeting myself right here where I am right
Yes.
now.
Yes, exactly. And yes, I love it because you can use tapping for that. And then you can use tapping when you're ready to release from your body and to reframe. But you're meeting yourself exactly where you are. And you're even uncovering so much that you don't even realize, because like we discovered as we're tapping, memories are coming back to you and you're holding that in your body, but it's not in your conscious mind. It's not in your awareness. And so it brings things to your awareness, which helps you get to the root and make the connections that are hard to make otherwise. And so that's a beautiful thing. It is, has been studied, and even the tapping motions, but also the acupuncture points that you're connecting to all these organs, all these parts of your body. I mean, it's so multifaceted, but it's also calming to your nervous system. So when you're angry, when you're anxious, it is very calming to your systems. It is a somatic, it came out way before somatic was a thing, but it is a somatic release. And that's why, talk therapy is amazing, but sometimes you just need to get out of your body too. And you need to be able to move it and shift it. Right. And I think it brings a lot of worlds together actually, because it's like, Eastern medicine, but a lot of Western medicine people are actually applying tapping now. And because it's so effective, and it's been studied with PTSD with veterans and was highly effective. And it's been studied clinically a lot now. And so it brings kind of all the worlds together. And
Amazing.
it is really, I'm a big fan.
Me too. I can't even like believe what we surfaced in such a short period of time.
Yes.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. So is there anything more that you feel that we need to do to like complete this session?
Yes. So just a couple of things with the anger. I did want to share that getting in your car, going on a drive and screaming is really effective. That way, you're not freaking your kids out, but I don't know. It's okay if you explain it and then they want to scream with you or something, but just being able to release
I'm going to, sorry,
Go
I'm
ahead.
going to pause for 1 second, but I just want to turn on a light. I was slowly, completely going to disappear.
No problem.
Okay. So sorry.
Yes. So with anger, going somewhere where you feel comfortable screaming, moving that out of your body, out of your throat chakra, and just kind of primally getting it out is really extremely effective and very freeing and helpful. Now, a lot of women I've noticed when I do this in person with people, are very hesitant to do this. And so, going in your car and doing this, going out in nature, finding a screaming rock, also drumming, using like a Native American healing type drum, or really any kind of drum, that is really effective in moving, and that motion and that sound is really helpful in moving kind of sacred rage, anger, and anger can be coming up for a lot of different reasons. And so it's amazing. And then sometimes that will help you then be ready for tapping. Because if you're really full of anger or rage, you may not feel like you can tap. So that's something that could kind of prep you as well. And walking, running, any of that, because you're moving it out. You could walk, run, and scream and drum if you wanted to. You could do all of it.
We live down this like long dirt road. I can just like picture myself up there with like a Native American drum, just like But no, I think like this is so amazing. And honestly, what it really has me thinking about is my boys. I just learned something that really fascinated me is that testosterone spikes between 3 and 6. Did you know this?
No.
And so a lot, like I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and you can just like see like little things can just like surface anger and like rage so quickly.
Yes.
And so even being able to like, this is the most beautiful part of us as women and mothers expanding our toolboxes is being able to share with our children. And so what's in my mind right now is like, wow, do you have a Native American drum that you love? Because I want to buy that one and like teach my children how to release these emotions positively.
Yes.
And so thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yes. I made mine with Holly Hope. But Holly has drums that she sells. Katie Joe, with Sage Canvas, she has drums, but for sure it's online, and there's different places you can do a workshop and make a drum. I know some people that do that with their kids.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. So there's lots of options, but I have talked to my kids as well, and I show them where my drum is, and hey, if you want to get some anger out, you're welcome to do this. And screaming and the different things. So I think it is an important tool. And then tapping, yes, too.
Amazing.
But, yes, absolutely. The other thing that came to me for you was if we could just take a couple minutes and do a little exploration visualization for your womb, if you're open to that. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just close your eyes and take some deep breaths. And I'd like you to even picture, if this resonates, invite you to do this, to picture angels or guides or ancestors, anyone that resonates with you that feels supportive to be around you. Maybe even picture them in a circle around you, holding that space. and allowing you to go into your womb and just take a look and notice and witness her and her emotions and her power. Just honor and witness, and even identify some of the emotions that you're seeing in there. And just pouring your love into your womb. Pouring love and compassion and understanding. Helping your womb feel safe and seen. Feeling that connection. And just feeling these divine beings or whoever is around you pouring their love into you. Maybe you even see that their love is coming out in energy and pouring into your crown and filling up your whole body. And your own love is pouring into your womb. And even thanking her for all she's done for you. All that you've experienced because of her. And any other thoughts that you have, any other messages that she wants to give you. I'll just be quiet for a minute while you listen and you share with her. Taking your time. Whenever you feel ready, whenever you feel complete with that, you can open your eyes. Anything you want to share?
That was awesome. I like the visual for me, like when almost like my womb came out of my body and was like next to a fire and we were all circled around. And I think safe was like, that's like the word that kept coming in my mind, is like, you're safe.
Good. I love it. How's your body feeling right now?
Good. Full of yawns.
You're releasing a lot. That's good.
I am. And even I have to say, so I don't know if you saw me like at the beginning, I was like rolling my shoulders back, but I have like really been carrying like so much tension, like up like my neck, shoulder for so long. And I totally felt it release.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. Yes. This work can change what you're experiencing physically as well as emotionally, spiritually, symptoms. Yes.
Amazing.
Good. Yes.
Karina, absolutely. This has been such a gift. So can you tell me a little bit more about your work? So I guess what I really want to share first, if that's okay, is that Karina and I have never spoken to one another. We do not know each other. Although I would really love to hang out with you.
I would too.
And that is what is so beautiful about us showing up in spaces where we intuitively belong, is we get to experience these like instant soul connections. And I absolutely feel that with you. Even though we have never, like, we don't know each other. And at least in this human experience, we've never met. And
right.
I think that really speaks to how intuitive your work is, because you shifted my body a lot in the last hour and 17 minutes. And so thank you.
Thank you for receiving. I appreciate it.
That is also like an art that we all get to work on, right?
Yes.
And something that I wanted to ask you before we wrap up is, what does working with you look like? Because I want more of this, and I'm sure that listeners are going to be wondering too. So what are your offerings? And you already shared where we can find you, but I'll put it all in the show notes. So you tell us.
I really appreciate that. And I loved every second of this. So yes, we'll have to continue connecting. But yes, working with me, pretty simple right now. I don't have a lot of offerings. I just work so intuitively. So I have had a women's circle before. I've done womb healing group sessions. I've done things like that. So I kind of just go with what pops up for me. But I do work one-on-one at this point. And eventually I do want to have some online courses that would make it really easy. But for now, one-on-one is the main offering. And I very flexible. I've always had kind of a sliding scale. So if people struggle financially, I work with them. It's more important to me that I am able to help people and that they get what they need. And so I have packages. I do individuals. It's all just very flexible. Okay. And I do have quite a few like free resources. So my podcast, my YouTube.
And I did not know that about you. I can't wait to listen to your podcast.
It's not super established. I haven't done a lot of episodes, but I have done a full one on tapping and some other exercises I teach. And I do like to offer the free resources in my YouTube. I actually have tapping segments on specific subjects and things like that. So if people still just want to get a better feel, they can do that. But yes, we've got the free session offer, I guess, capped at 10.
And also, I feel that those sessions, like, it should be like 30 minutes, like top. Does that like feel intuitive to you? Because I have been in a place where I have offered myself freely and only has a large audience, and it can so quickly become more than we were willing to, than we thought. And you are a mama. We have max capacity, and I most definitely don't want your generous heart to be bombarded.
I appreciate that. Yes, that sounds great.
Okay.
And yes. So I'm here to work one-on-one, and I will have group things in the future, but just right now there's not a set offering there. And then I am recording. I'm now recording things for an online course. So that's coming in the future, but
amazing. Karina, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you for joining me in today's episode of Follow Your Gut. If we don't know each other, I'm Juniper Bennett. I'm the founder and CEO of ōnlē Organics, a supplement and education brand focused on women and children's gut health. I will have all the resources mentioned in today's episode linked in the show notes for you. I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Instagram at ōnlē Organics. That's ōnlē Organics. And make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Lastly, it's important for you to know that the information shared on this podcast is based on my personal experiences and research. Please always trust your own inner voice of wisdom and your healthcare professional. Until next time.